What is up, everybody? You know who it is. It is your allies behind enemy lines, Ryan and Joey, coming at you thoroughly behind enemy lines in Cowboys territory, holding it down for all our Washington football team fans. Check us out here on YouTube. Check us out here on Facebook. We are live right now. Been going live for like the last month now. Having a great time with it. A lot of fun. Come on over, hit the subscribe button while you're here on our while you're here on our YouTube page. Ring that notification bell so as soon as we go live or as soon as we drop our latest and greatest heat, you are notified. You can come join the live discussion. You can watch us, on the weekends when you're traveling, doing whatever. Make sure you're staying up to date with what's going on with our Washington football team. If you don't want to watch us here on YouTube, that's all right. I understand we're not that cute. But anyways, you can still listen to us. You can check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, anywhere you can find your podcasts. We are there. And go ahead and check us out on Twitter at AlliesBEL. We have all our links to everything I just described to you right there in our bio. And again, like I said, you can check us out on Facebook everywhere by searching us Allies Behind Enemy Lines Podcast. We are here. We are here. We are here. Next time we talk next week, training camp will have begun. Joey, we made it.
Yes, we would have made it. We're getting so close. It's great to see. But it's great to see that it's getting so close. I see the countdowns on many different sites. 21 more days, 21 more days. But it's going to be all. It's for me, it's as far as that first preseason game. We want to see these guys in action again. So that countdown in my mind to see what is it, Friday Night Football. We're going to see that first game against the Patriots, right? And it's going to be great to there. But I'm getting psyched, man. It's getting closer and closer. And I'm kind of saying I'm getting psyched.
Absolutely, yeah, me too. The Steelers reported this week. The Cowboys also reported this week because they'll be playing the Hall of Fame game, so they'll be playing a little bit earlier than everybody else. So those two reported, like I said, the beginning of this week, and now everybody else kind of starts filing in the beginning of next week through the end of next week. One thing I wanted to start off with was we talked about it a little bit last week, the coronavirus and the COVID protocols of everything that's going on with the NFL. Last week when we talked, the Washington football team was right around 50% for the team being vaccinated. Now that's closer to 60%, so the numbers are still going up as far as the team getting vaccinated. One of the biggest things was the NFL came out and said, hey, look, if you have an outbreak on your team and it's among unvaccinated players and you can't play, you're going to forfeit this game, and those players are going to lose their paychecks, almost forcing guys to get the vaccination. We'll leave all your beliefs and whatever out of this. But just as far as that and putting a kind of a stranglehold on players and kind of forcing them one way, it's something that we haven't really seen from the NFL in the past. They've kind of left everything up for, outside of the drugs they test for and things like that. They've kind of left it, left players alone and left teams alone, kind of let teams, run themselves. So what are your thoughts on this, Joey, just as far as, kind of what the NFL's ruling is on this? And do you think we see any teams forfeit games? Do you think we see any guys lose checks during the season?
The verbiage in it is what it's most, it's what's most interesting to me. As you can see there, how are they going to know if it's caused by, a non-vaccinated or a vaccinated player? When it kind of comes in there, because as we know and as we've been seeing more and more, vaccinated people can get and spread COVID. So I don't know how they're going to be able to actually, it sounds to me like, especially on the forfeiting of the pay part, it's going to be a very muddy situation when if and when this does come into effect with the team happening. I mean, I definitely like the initiative to try to get players, to get more awareness so that they can make decisions for themselves, and that we're having the uptrend as far as our team getting 50 to 60%. That that the hope is that it continues to rise. But I think it's just more just stressing the importance, I think, of getting this vaccine that the league is trying to pass down to the teams and as a message that we want you guys to be vaccinated. You guys are not only for the safety of your teams, your players, your families, whatnot. But you guys are heroes and role models to a lot of people. So you guys taking that stance of getting vaccinated is going to inspire a lot of other people who might be on the fence to go and do the same thing. So, I mean, all politics aside there, I do see what the league is trying to do. I think it's, like, again, I on the player side, I think it's going to get muddy. I don't think that it can actually, as far as fining. But as far as the team forfeiting a game, that can just be a rule in general. And I don't see a lot of, teams being able to arbitrate that or go ahead and fight that So that's gonna be interesting to see if that does come to effect, and hopefully it's not us late in the season where we get stuck on one of those times where you're playing 2 games in like 10 or 7 days or something like that, and he knocks out 2 games for a team. So that could be crucial. It's interesting to see how this is going to play out and how this affects the vaccination rate with each team.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of clear things up, they said that if you have to miss the game and they're not able to fit it back in the schedule, it will go down as a forfeit for whoever's team is the one that quote unquote causes it. But like you said, the verbiage of it saying if it's a breakout amongst unvaccinated players, like, yeah, they could, contract it. But what if they caught it because of, like you said, one of the vaccinated players had it? Now, they say if you're vaccinated, you aren't able to spread it. You're not contagious. I don't know the facts or the science behind all of that. So I guess if you do contract it, the only assumption is, and you're not vaccinated, the only assumption is you contracted it, and then you once, from that point, spread it across the rest of the unvaccinated guys. So I just thought it was very interesting, and I agree 100% with you. We'll see kind of how they're able to, arbitrarily make the decision of, okay, this was a vaccinated guy, this wasn't an unvaccinated guy, he's the one that caused it, he's the one that, whatever, this and that and the other. But hopefully everyone gets to play all 17 games, and we don't really, it's not really an issue. But it is good that more players on our team are getting the vaccination just to protect the team and themselves. You know what I mean? Like I said, all beliefs and politics aside, just if you're looking at strictly as a football thing, just a football thing, what's going on between the lines? The more and more guys we have vaccinated, the less issues you have, and the more of a competitive advantage it is when you're looking at just football. And so the fact that that's trending up as far as just the football team goes, I think that's really good, and sets a good precedent for the rest of the guys.
It definitely sets a good precedent, and it definitely, it goes back to that thing about, last year we talked a lot about it as far as being safe, at the time when there wasn't a vaccine, about, wearing your mask and social distancing and keeping that out of the team. We did a great job of not having an outbreaks with our team last year. And it's all about coming in a team together as a team, doing what's best for the team in that aspect. Obviously you got your families, you got different situations that might, inhibit you from wanting to do that. But as far as we can get, and within the team, I think they're going to understand that when you see like a team with, a certain percentage, or because, players are talking. I guarantee you within that locker room, they know who and who is not doing it, and the reasons behind it. And as long as they're supporting each other, I think that, that's the most important thing. We don't want to see this to cause any division or, any type of, negative stuff in our locker rooms. We don't want to keep it all positive. So, the best that they can do to stay informed and to be safe and do what's best for the team, whatever that might be. And when they get in that mindset, the answers seem to provide themselves to you.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. Agreed. Moving on to the next little quick hitter subject. Joey, I don't know if you saw this. This doesn't really have anything to do directly with the Washington football team, but it kind of does adjacent. The Cleveland Indians, they changed their name and they announced what they're going to be going, what their team name is going to be going forward. They're going from the Cleveland Indians to now they're going to be the Cleveland Guardians. They really didn't take as much time. I think they announced it might have even been early this year or late last year that they were going to go ahead and go forward with moving away from the Indians name and changing their name. So not a whole lot of time put into the decision process behind it, kind of like what we're seeing with Washington. And by all accounts, what I'm seeing on the internet, it's not really 50-50. I'd say it's probably about 75-25 people hate the name. They think it was kind of rushed. I've seen this sounds like an XFL team. This sounds like an arena football team. This sounds like a minor league team and all this and that. So the reason I bring it up is because, however frustrated you may be with us being the Washington football team for 2 seasons now, and they're still not going to release the name until the beginning of next year, 2022, after the season starts. This is why they're taking as long as they are. This is why there's so much so much time giving and decision making going on behind the scenes, is because they want to make sure that this name suits the team and that it gets as close to 100% approval rating. You're never going to get 100% approval rating when it comes to stuff like this. I think if you're if you're 50% or more, you're doing pretty good when it comes to stuff like this. But like I said, with the Guardians, their logo kind of stinks. That was the first thing that jumped out to me. It looked like a single A or double A minor league baseball team logo. It's just like the Guardians, like as far as that name, it could have been worse for sure. Definitely could have been worse. A lot of, for those that don't know, that probably don't keep up with a whole lot of that, some of the best, or excuse me, some of the most popular decisions were the Cleveland Spiders, because that's what they were back in like the 1900s. They were the Cleveland Spiders. A lot of people wanted to be the Cleveland Rocks because of obviously the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Cleveland Rocks, the whole song. Shout out Drew Carey. That whole thing, which I thought was kind of funny. If you're the Cleveland Rocks, that's kind of funny to me. That would have been my first decision, but again, kind of going back to what I was saying originally was like this is why I commend all the decision makers, Jason Wright, everybody that's coming together to make this football team name, whether it's staying with Washington football team, whether it's coming out with a new one, whether it's coming out with new logos, whatever it may be. This is why I commend them for taking their time and not rushing it, because old Washington, you flash back to 07, 08, 09. If it's Bruce Allen, they probably would have taken like 2 or 3 weeks and been like, you know what, that's the name. That's going to be the name going forward. And they're taking, like I said, nice long time, 2.5, 3 years of deciding a new name, deciding a new logo. And I think they have to be commended, no matter how frustrated you may be, no matter how many arguments may go on of it should be this team name, that team name, this team name, that team name, this logo, whatever. As long as it's not rushed, which it hasn't been, I think we're going to be in a pretty decent spot, much better than we are than what we see what the Cleveland baseball team's going through right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, it came out of left field, pun intended. That this name change, I didn't even know it was like I didn't even know they were considering it. I know they've been getting pressure. I didn't, like I said, I don't follow. I thought I followed sports enough to know that this was going to be a thing. Like, it's all over the place about the Washington football team and their whole name change, and it's been a thing for a while. And I think it would have been a thing for a while, even if before the name was changed, it was a thing for a long while. But I mean, it comes, like I said, it comes out of nowhere. I saw that, and I thought it was one of those like fake posts for a second. So I saw ESPN.com was the one that releasing the information. I was like, well, I don't think ESPN's going to release anything fake there. So it's the Guardians. It kind of, like I said, it is kind of a funky name. To come up with out of nowhere, I don't even know what the logo is referring to. Where that has any historical ties? So there's like a Cleveland, Ohio has some kind of Guardians, or if it's just.
So what it is they in Cleveland, and there's statues on there, and they're called the Guardian statues or the Guardian Bridge statues or something like that. And so that's where it comes from. Is that's the Guardians.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that they do have some kind of tie. It's like, the Guardians. But I know I saw that Spiders, and a lot of people wanted to be called the Spiders as well because of the throwback to the old name, which is kind of a cool name, and definitely would be a cool little logo, especially nowadays of all the cool things they can do. But it's like I said, it came out of nowhere, and I think that's it just goes to show with the times right now and how kind of everything's playing itself out as far as the being politically correct and not offending anyone, which is good. So now it's who's next? Is it the Braves? Is it the Chiefs? What's that kind of just, to me, that's the bigger story is all the chips falling now, or is because obviously they've already made their name, but like you said, it was so quick. But who's going to be next on this list?
Yeah, and a couple of things to follow up there too. Before I knew, so I talked to my buddy Warren, who you've met. He's from Cleveland. He's a Cleveland guy, Browns fan, Indians, the whole thing. Cleveland all across the board, Ohio State. Before because he's the one that told me about the Guardians they call it the Guardians of the Transportation of Bridges or something of that kind of something there. And before he told me that, I thought, my dumb brain went Guardians, Indians. Maybe they were trying to not rhyme, but kind of keep something similar to where, because I know I can't be the only dumb brain fan who it's like, well, that kind of sounds similar, right? The Guardians, the Indians, go Indians, go Guardians, something like that. So I thought that's where they went first. And maybe they were able to kind of tie that in together where it was like, hey, this kind of sounds like the old name, but also it does have a tie to the new name or to the city. So that was my first thought. The other thing, when you talk about the Chiefs, So the thing that's interesting about the Chiefs, so if you just take the word chief, because there was an argument that I saw on Twitter today, somebody was making this same argument that you were of like, hey, what's next for the Braves in baseball, the Chiefs, the Blackhawks in hockey, all this. But if you just look at the word chief, it's a French word that I think means like leader of the pack or leader or something like that. So if you just take that word chief, you're fine. But then they have Arrowhead Stadium. They have the spear, the arrowhead on their logo. They have all the Native American imagery, which is what a lot of teams are trying to get away from. So I wonder there at the Chiefs, you can still keep the name Chief, but you'd have to go away from all the imagery that I just mentioned, because you think of today, like we have a chief of staff, we have chief of whatever, there's a lot, chief executive officer, things like that, chief financial officer. So they're the leader, meaning the word chief, but not actually like a chief of a Native American tribe or something like that. But again, you think of the chief of the Native American tribe, what is he? He's the leader. So that's the one thing that's kind of interesting there of if the Chiefs end up falling under this, same scrutiny or going the same direction that a lot of these other teams are, is you can still keep that name. You just got to change your logos and change everything like that. And that's the other thing too about the logos for the new Cleveland baseball team. Like those can change, but just the initial rollout, because that's what everyone's going to see, right? The initial rollout for Washington is going to be huge. Whether it is, we stick with the W, with the block letter, which I love the new word scripts, that we came out with, the kind of block lettering, or whatever logo or mascot that we use, like the initial rollout. Sure, you can always change that. You can change that 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the road. But that initial rollout is going to be so big and so huge. And again, my whole point of bringing this topic up is why I commend the organization for taking as long as they have to try to make sure that they just get it absolutely perfect on the first try. Now on the other side, if they don't get it, it's gonna be like, you had all this time and this is what you came up with. So it's a double-edged sword. But yeah, exactly. Like this is what you made us wait for, was all this, and that's what we got. So you're kind of playing with fire. I think you're playing with fire either way with something like this. But again, that was just more of so like a tip of the ball cap to Washington and the organization of trying to make sure this is all right and showing what can happen or what could have happened if they would have rushed it, and kind of like the Cleveland baseball team did.
You don't want to get gobbledygookered. And I don't know if that reference makes any sense to you, but just quick for those who do, it's an old wrestling thing. I remember when I was a kid, they had this giant egg that they were putting it was in wrestling arenas for months leading. Oh, what's in the egg? What's in the egg? And then every week, a couple weeks there'd be a little crack. Oh, it's opening. It's all. Oh, we think it's gonna hatch at the Survivor Series, which is a great event that year. And everyone's all waiting, thinks it's gonna be some cool thing, and then it hatches, and it's like a San Diego chicken ripoff gobbledygooker that comes out and does this dance. And even the announcers didn't know. Come to find out later on, the announcers didn't even know what it was, and they're just kind of like, they had to sell it, and they're like, what is this? What is this? You definitely don't want to be gobbledygookered when it comes with the name and be like, this is it. It's the Washington, whatever the name comes. I can't even think what it would be. I kind of like a lot of the names we have now, but yeah. Thank you for being the first one, so we can at least say, at least we're not the Cleveland Guardians.
I'm looking at the gobbledygooker now.
Yeah.
That thing is, first of all, that thing's kind of scary. Like, you're a kid, that thing is scary.
And it made no sense. Like, it made no sense.
Yeah.
Like, what are you, a wrestler? A mascot? Like, we all thought it was going to be a wrestler. Somebody came out and, a big reveal. And, wrestling legend is that they wanted it to be The Undertaker, because he actually premiered in that same Survivor Series, and he was going to be the Eggman. But he was like, they changed their mind on that, which is great for his career. Because the Eggman would have lasted.
Eggman?
Yeah, the Eggman would have lasted that long. So I'm sure it's one of those things like, we got to come up with something. We have to reveal in 1 week. I don't know. Throw Hector Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero's brother ended up being Hector Guerrero in the costume. It was him. Throw him in the costume. He'll go out there and dance and do flips. The kids will love it. And the kids didn't love it. Nobody loved it. And
it literally looks like, so this is going to be bad radio for anybody listening back from the podcast, but it literally looks like they went down to like the costume store. Let me see if I can. Down the road and just like got a chicken costume. Like, that thing's scary. Like, look at the eyes. Like, that thing is. Yeah, that's
a gobbledygooker, yes. So anticipation can go totally wrong. So yes, if you're gonna make us wait 2 damn years, this name better be thought out. The logo better be fire. there better be a president. I'm assuming there's gonna be like a hype video, kind of like the Bulls and
Yeah.
when they reveal it, and howls and wolf sounds and all kinds. Of, we think it's gonna be the wolves or whatever it's gonna be. Please guys, don't let that happen to us. But good luck to you Cleveland Guardians out there.
Yeah, so that was another thing that was being talked about, because Cleveland, they did a big a release video for it. It wasn't a hype video; it was like releasing what they were going to be, and Tom Hanks was the voice, and so people were like, which if you're gonna do it, I mean, but Tom Hanks, he's right up there with the guy that you want it to do, that you want to voice your. I mean,
release. We used it for COVID. They're like, when's the last time? Remember when Tom Hanks announced he had COVID? It's just one of those voices you put, one of those faces you put out there. Yeah. I forgot what else wasn't it a convention too? What convention was it? This politicians last year, right before the election. Tom Hanks went and talked about something. I forgot what it was. And I remember it brought up an old Simpsons thing because it came on The Simpsons, and it was like it was an episode where they used Tom Hanks to do something, a disaster situation, and the voiceover was Tom Hanks saying, "Hello, I'm Tom Hanks. The government doesn't have much credibility anymore, so they're going to borrow some of mine." And I think that the Cleveland Guardians did a little bit of the same, where they just try to borrow a little bit of Tom Hanks' credibility.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Makes sense. Because I don't know if Tom Hanks is an Ohio guy.
You definitely don't. When you think Ohio, you don't think Tom Hanks. You think Drew Carey. In my mind, you think Drew Carey, and the movie Major
Rob
League.
Rob Dyrdek for me.
The movie Major League. I think of The Miz now. Obviously, I think of Baker Mayfield now. Baker Mayfield might have sold it, but like he's out. He's like, I ain't put my name behind no Guardians, man. I'm still trying to get a contract over here. Don't give him another reason to hate me.
So one of the things was, when Washington releases their video, who's going to be the voice? People were saying, let's get James Earl Jones, let's get Morgan Freeman. But I think the obvious answer's got to be Matthew McConaughey. I mean, you can't get much cooler than that. Like the way his voice can just kind of like mellow out, because they did a bunch of B-roll of like shooting the city and then players from the game, things like that. Mm-hmm. I think Matthew McConaughey has got to be choice number one for the guy that voices the video for Washington.
All produced by we get all kinds of all the famous star or fans, I should say, could have a part in it, and I'm sure Matthew McConaughey wouldn't mind directing that, and it'll be great.
Matthew McConaughey voices it. Wale gets a beat over it. One of his songs or something. I think
Kevin Durant, I don't know what he does. He goes and blows blows it somehow. I don't know. I'm just messing. But yeah, a lot of famous Washington fans out there, and it'd be cool to see. Joe Gibbs. I mean, just Joe Gibbs talking. It's time to return to the glory years of Mr. Joe Gibbs after my stint here with the NASCAR team. It's time. We start a new beginning here in Washington. I don't know why it sounds like
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. There you go. We got tons. We got tons. So let's get this video. Let's get this production. I know you guys got the name. You guys got months and months and months to produce this 5-minute Grammy award winning. Not Grammy, I guess it'd be. It would be a Grammy. Yeah, would be Emmy award winning. Maybe Grammy if they have music involved. As like the song. So composed by Wale, he'll get a Grammy, and then Matthew McConaughey will get the Emmy.
Perfect.
Oscar.
Yeah, that's right. Academy Award. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So we got all our bases covered there. But quickly switching gears. With the beginning of training camp, we have a lot of guys that are going to be coming back from injury. Guys that missed a lot of the season last year. And one guy we've mentioned that we're super excited about seeing back out there is none other than Matt Ioannidis, a guy that we feel like is a big time anchor to our defensive line. Well, comes out earlier this week. Our boy Zach Selby, shout out, still waiting for that DM to be answered to see if he wants to come on. He writes an article about how we are not only the only ones that feel that way, but the team and the other defensive linemen feel the exact same way. A couple guys went on to quote saying, "Look, having Matt out there, we feel like he is a core guy of this defensive line. Yeah, he wasn't out there last year when we had this big burst on the scene as one of the top defenses in the league, but with him here, we're stronger than ever and better than ever." And, it's going to be exciting to have him out there. But that's the same sentiment we've kind of shared. And so getting back on track to training camp and getting him back healthy and getting him back into the swing of things, I mean, we've talked about it tirelessly about how this defense could perform, how it should perform. But then having a guy like and it feels good when not only like when fans and players share the same sentiment about a certain guy, that gets you excited even more. Like when I read this article, it's like, oh, hell yeah. Like, let's go. Let's suit him up right now. I want to see how many sacks we can get. I want to see how many pressures we can get. I want to see how we stop that run because we're going to have arguably the best defensive line in the league.
Yes. I mean, it's a hard argument to lose, too. Because Matt Ioannidis, and as me and you have said, over the years, we've always been huge fans of him because we saw it as people who followed him closely and watched the game. He was a menace, as Jonathan Allen was still coming around, and Deron Payne was still, getting his footing, and Montez Sweat as well. Matt Ioannidis was leading this defensive line. He was the best player on that line when he was healthy the year before, he got hurt. And, just some of the facts it said there, I think it was, after a certain point with the first 6 games, he was second only to Aaron Donald or something like that as far as, pass rushing from that defensive tackle position, which is not easy, which is not easy, as Aaron Donald has shown, that he can't be blocked. But, Matt Ioannidis, to me, when I think of him, I think of, was it his rookie or second year where he just knocked Ezekiel Elliott into a backflip on one when Ezekiel Elliott tried to block him in the game. And he'll always remember me as that. And not to I've read articles, during that time that he was the weight leader, like the person that pushes the defensive team to, lift weights and get strong, like the strongest person on that team. And I could not see that being any different now. So you get someone like that, who has that respect of his teammates, work ethic as far as, hey, he leads the pack as far as our, weight and conditioning. And to come back and, not only have the production on the field, but coming back and knowing he's going to be part of this defensive line that already is on notice. When people talk about the defensive line right now, they're not talking about him. They're talking about Chase Young. They're talking about Montez Sweat. They're talking about Deron Payne. They're talking about Jonathan Allen. His name is not even mentioned. And he might be right up there as one of the best of this bunch. And I'm excited to see what he does when he actually gets back in there.
Yeah, like you said, he led the team in sacks in 2019. I mean, he was the team leader in sacks, yeah. And the only ones that were ahead of him, like you said, were Aaron Donald and Chris Jones from the Chiefs from that defensive tackle position and leading in sacks. So, I mean, this guy, like you said, you put it perfectly, is a menace. And now you got Chase Young and Montez Sweat out there. Montez Sweat has taken a step up since 2019. Chase Young, we saw, they got to play 3 games together last year, and that was it. And Chase Young really didn't even hit his stride to like week 5 or 6. And so now have a fully healthy Matt Ioannidis, to have a Chase Young that's rolling on all cylinders, taking this league by storm. And like you said, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, on either side of them, depending on what the rotation is. I mean, he has a chance to, like you said, he's not even being mentioned right now. He's going to be a dark horse. Like if he wins Defensive Player of the Year, I wouldn't be shocked. If he gets, double-digit sacks, I wouldn't be shocked because there's going to be so much focus on the other 3 guys around him that he might kind of get lost in the shuffle. And he might as well be the best defensive tackle we have. He might be the strongest one too. And so, like you said, just blowing up Zeke, I remember exactly which one you're talking about. Zeke planted like he was going to block this dude, and he just got railroaded. He looked like Wile E. Coyote getting run over by the Roadrunner. Just
it rolled him over. They just rolled them straight bulldoze, backflipped them. So
yeah. And so again, the reason I bring this up too is like, okay, yeah, Matt Ioannidis come back, we get it. Like the real main reason is like, A, how he's going to be overlooked, and B, the fact that the other guys are just as excited to have him back as we are. Again, that gets the blood flowing, that gets the heart pumping a little bit, that gets the juices flowing. And it's like, man, what can this be? Like the sky is the absolute freaking limit for this defense. If we're rolling all cylinders, we stay healthy. We play to our expectations or even beyond that. And again, with training camp right around the corner, I'm just ready to see these guys on the field. I'm ready for the juice. I'm ready for the juice.
Yes, I'm ready for the juice. And like you said, I would make the statement, I don't even know how bold it is, that he is definitely the most underrated defensive tackle in the NFL. I don't know anyone out there, myself personally, that's coming from, again, a limited scope. And it's a hard position to get, respect for, especially when you're getting compared to people like, when there's people like Aaron Donald out there or Chris Jones out there. So it's going to be hard, to even get on the radar with people like that. But, you're talking to somebody that's, just as athletic and strong and that now plays on, like you said, probably the most talented defensive line in the league. So you put that combination together, and they're going to have to single block somebody. And if they do him, bad on them.
Yeah. No, agree. 100%. I mean, I wish we could run a 5-2 defense. Just Matt Ioannidis, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, the track stars on the outside, and then, Jamin Davis and whoever else, playing linebacker behind them. If that was a sustainable defense, a nice little 5-2, that'd be pretty vicious and pretty tough for teams to handle. But it's not Madden, so
quick. You got to get
so
back there quick. It's like,
exactly.
get back there quick or die.
Yeah, exactly. So, I digress on that. I think it could be a package that we could at least use.
It's the only problem though with a 5-2 package is like most of the time it's a run stopping and a pass rushing package. So you got to be able to drop those guys like the ends off into coverage at some point. So it's better to have if you're running that package, it'd be better to have Jamin Davis playing the outside. And someone to that regard as a pass rushing linebacker more is playing the outside versus a defensive line pass rusher. That's the only problem there. Even in Madden, I wouldn't put those guys on the outside because if you want to throw anybody out into the flats, they're not going to be able to get out there and beat the running back. They're not going to be able to those quick passes to the outside or get to the wide receiver. So that'd be the only problem there. But hey, we've got guys running 4.5 speed ends there. Sometimes the golden ticket Montez Sweat and Madden, it works on him, but I mean I don't know if he's really that fast in real life.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, like I said, I know it couldn't really work logistically in the NFL, but if it could, I think
you're up 10 points. It could.
Right, yeah. If you're up 10 points, if you're up 13, and maybe you got like a 3rd and 18 or something like that. I mean, you're probably not playing super aggressive anyway. That seems like a very aggressive package. But if there's anybody that has the guys to do it, I think it's Washington. We'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean the size alone, because again, all they're gonna have to do is put their hands up, all of them, and you're saying you almost have a dome of okay, now who are you looking at? I mean you're not gonna be able to sustain that pocket. That pocket
would. So Montez and Chase on the outs.
Matt,
I know you said those.
Duran and Jonathan in the middle.
In the middle. Jamin, Landon Collins playing the 2 linebackers. We got Kendall, we got William Jackson, and then we got Cam Curl
and Reeves.
Buddy. Who's beating that? Nobody. Nobody's beating that.
No, that's my idea. I mean, yes. I mean, the idea there is having 3 safeties on the field and 1 linebacker. If you get that's like a nickel 3-3-5 wide, you can do the same the same type of thing. I mean, there's a lot you can run a lot out of those. We might see that. I definitely with someone like Landon Collins and with someone like they're talking. What's the guy we drafted? McKinley. What's the guy we drafted out of the safety out of Virginia Tech? What did we draft there? Forrest.
Yeah, that was
Derek. What's his name? Forrest.
Yeah, but he's not from Virginia Tech. That's what threw me off.
What's his name? Anyway,
yeah.
He's another one of those guys that would fit that form, that type of, that hybrid role.
Because he's fast.
And he's fast. That's the thing there. You cannot get beat or you're getting beat by a lot because all it takes is 2 out routes and this whole middle of the field is wide open for you to get beat one-on-1. So that's the only thing that can happen in that situation. That would be bad. So, yeah, I can't believe my mind.
Derek Forrest.
I had the Forrest. I don't know where McKinley came from. I don't know where McKinley.
When you said Forrest, I was like DeForest. Wait, no, not DeForest Buckner. Or I was like, see, this is what you're gonna get. So I'm glad I'm not the only one because my names are the hardest thing for me to remember or get correct. Like when I would do my radio show here, we'd be talking about Sean Lee, the Cowboys linebacker. Every single time I called him David Lee, who was the forward who played for the Warriors and the Knicks, and like every single time, like it became a running joke. So I almost called him DeForest Buckner. I knew it wasn't that. I got the D right. I got the Forrest right. Derek Forrest. We'll remember your name, Derek. Just make a couple plays. We'll remember your name, baby. Don't worry.
I mean, we did not know who Cameron Curl was this time of year last year. I would not have remembered his name for nothing. And now he's, my favorite player. One of them. Obviously that whole defense is insane, but he's, one of the definitely my favorite breakout player last year in the entire league. So I still think he's better than Jeremy Chin, and I believe that from the hair of my chinny chin.
100%. I agree. Yeah. We got the 2 best defensive players of that draft. I'll fight anybody with that. quick kind of shift here. So we're not gonna rip Zach Selby's content again, but kind of what we were talking about this 5-2. You said you want more of an outside linebacker on the ends there to be able to drop down in the flats or maybe be able to drop into coverage. Zach Selby did his pick six that he always does, and one of the questions was about Shaka Tony and what he thought his role could be. Somebody asked about Shaka Tony, a guy who I've mentioned quite a bit, who I think I'm really, really excited about to see what he can do.
A show favorite.
And the question was, do you foresee Shaka Tony maybe playing outside linebacker, not defensive end, and rushing the quarterback from that outside linebacker?
Well, I mean,
outside linebacker spot. Go ahead.
Again, I don't. We'd have to see him. I don't have enough knowledge of his abilities and what he did in college, but if you're just bringing in him as a strictly pass rushing in a I guess in a preventive role, I guess I could see that, but I don't know. I want to see him. You're talking about a 3-down linebacker in a sense, someone that can pass rush and play coverage when it comes to the guys that we want on the field. So I think he's going to be more of rotation when it comes to Montez Sweat and Chase Young, and especially when like we said, we have guys like Tim Settle that are going to be able to come in and we drafted another. I forgot the guy. I'm not going to remember the name either of the other end we drafted, but we got other guys that are going to be able to come in and keep. Yeah, and we're going to have a ton. King. So we have a ton of guys that can, we want to have that depth because, you want to be able to have those guys fresh. And, much like, the great 49ers defense I remember around the time when Jim Harbaugh, Mike Singletary there, and when Jim Harbaugh took over, and the Legion of Boom during that time, that was the key to those defenses was to be able to rotate those pass rushers in. So I like the depth, but I don't know if he's going to be able to jump back there and play linebacker. I'm really interested to see what, what Davis's progression is. If they're going to be a signal caller, or if he's going to strictly be outside linebacker support, and they're going to leave it on Cole or Bostic, or so that's kind of our I guess our other than Cameron Curl and Landon Collins, that's our biggest question mark when it comes to the defense. Yeah,
for sure. Of like you said, if he's going to be the leader of that defense, for lack of a better term, like I said, the signal caller. I agree with your sentiment about Shaka Tony. The biggest reason was Jack Del Rio said that if he's going to have it, he wants his edge rushers to have their hand in the ground, right? He wants them coming off, their sprinter stance, 3-point stance, 4-point stance, whatever it is. And that's where Shaka Tony did a lot of his work. William Bradley King, I think he was an outside linebacker at Baylor, but they're shifting him over to defensive end. He's kind of a smaller guy. I say that smaller. I think he's like 6'3", 250. 6'3", 254, where Shaka Tony's 6'2", 238. So he's even smaller than Bradley King. I thought it was the opposite. I thought Tony was a little bit taller. I thought he was like that 6'4", 6'5 range. So he's even smaller. So depending on his skill set, I think those guys are 100% both going to be rotational guys. I don't think they're going to be coverage linebackers. Mainly because Tony, that's not what he did in college. Bradley King, maybe he's just a little big, not as quick. Hence why we got them in the 6th and 7th round when we did. But yeah, that was my biggest thing is that Jack Del Rio said, if you're going to be an edge rusher, your hand's going to be in the ground. And I don't know what that means for Montez Sweat, because Montez Sweat, he likes to be standing up when he's rushing, doesn't he?
I mean, he says both. I think we have two guys in the ground. They're both in the ground. And as a former defensive end myself, who played in high school, I was always from the standing position. I never had my hand in the ground until they wanted me to do that my junior year just to get more. And it is so much harder to get up and around if you're so used to it versus just sprinting. The bad thing about standing up is your legs. You get shot blocked a lot when you stand up. And running backs throw themselves at your thigh, get a lot of those big bruises on your thigh pad. But that's the only I think the biggest drawback to that is just knowing, and it's good to have the hands up, but I also think that he's more effective with his hand on the ground. I think with the 4-3 defense, you want rushers with their hands in the ground.
Yeah, no, 100%. The 4-3, absolutely you do. That's why I was a little hesitant to say one way or the other, because like you said, if it's a 3-4, go ahead and have your outside rushers. What I really like, and you don't see it in the NFL a whole lot. We did it a little bit back in the Shanahan days. the Ravens really made it popular was the amoeba defense, where you have, some guys kind of standing, some guys their hands in the ground, they're all kind of moving around. That's what they called it, the amoeba defense, because it was just constantly moving. You didn't know who was dropping back in coverage. You didn't know who was coming towards the quarterback, which, again, I think that's maybe a package deal that we could do because we have the guys to do it, but I don't think that you make that your base defense. 100% not. So
see, I would like that amoeba style defense. If we ran the 5-2, and I'd almost like to have Matt Ioannidis in the middle with Payne and Allen playing on the outside, and having Young and Sweat kind of standing up in that amoeba stance right there in the middle, where they can either go straight, whip out, or they can drop back in coverage, and it presents confusion. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and that's what you want. 100% agree. That's what you want. When the center's making his call outs, when they're trying to figure out what their blocking scheme's going to be, that's exactly what you want. You want the right tackle think he has this guy. Well, shit, that guy's not coming anymore. Now this dude, now this who would be your left defensive tackle is now coming at you when you thought he was going to the center, whatever. So, that's ideally what it would be, is just creating mass confusion and not being able to get a grasp of their blocking assignments and their blocking scheme. So, again, if I don't think Jack Del Rio is the type, but if he wanted to get real creative and real kind of nuanced, again, this is the team to do it with, because you have the athletes to do it, and you have just that athletes. I mean, you still look at our biggest dudes in the middle that we talked about, and they're still moving. They're still moving, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's moving people, whatever it may be. They're absolutely,
they're all bursts. You don't have to run it, the 4-5, but you can run the 4-5 for 3 steps. You know what I mean? It's just, that's all it takes. Everyone starts off the same. It's later on when the breakout goes away. So yeah, everyone's at the same speed at that in that tight little box.
Yeah, exactly. So now shifting gears, going over to the other side of the ball. One guy that, you mentioned on the defense side, a couple of question marks. I think the biggest question mark outside of quarterback for the offense is which wide receivers are going to be on this team. We already know. We mentioned last week. We mentioned again something we've talked about in nauseum during the slow time of the wide receivers we know are going to make it, and then those other ones that are in the running. And one guy that is going to be making a comeback yet again from another injury, tore his ACL just before training camp last year, is Kelvin Harmon. They say he wasn't ever really close to getting on the field in 2020. He's going to be back on there in 2021, and it's been a long rehab process for him for whatever reason. Not everybody's AP. Not everybody can come back in 8 months after tearing their ACL. It has been a long process for him. He's a taller dude. He's a speed guy. So he's a guy that I think is right on the bubble there for a couple reasons. He has had these injury concerns when he has been healthy. He hasn't had to say a ton of success makes it sound like he was a bum. That wasn't it. He just, he was kind of in that purgatory, just that middle, kind of middle of the row. And then another thing, again, he's not a quote unquote Ron Rivera guy, whereas some of these other guys, Antonio Gandy Golden, who else? I mean, obviously the Dax Milne from this year. Some of the guys that Ron Rivera has drafted, that's not his guy. So I think sometimes fans think that goes against players more than it actually does, but it's still something to talk about, and still something to bring up.
It definitely is, and we've talked about it from the very beginning as we started signing Adam Humphries and drafting of Diami Brown, and obviously Curtis Samuel. That's a crowded wide receiver room. There's a lot of people that we know being on this team are not going to be on the team. Steven Sims, Isaiah Wright. Those are Cam Sims. Now we have Kelvin Harmon. We have there's going to be more guys in camp. But I think that Kelvin Harmon, is someone that's when you go through an injury like that, there's 2 ways. You can come out hesitant, you can come out, full blown. I think he's one of the latter, coming out full blown. And so he's one of those guys that's not going to be given a spot. He's going to definitely have to earn it. And but it sounds like he's in the right position to be able to earn that spot. And he's already taken, we've heard his name during the mini camps. He was definitely one that stood out. So he's already got his name on the radar. He's someone they're going to be evaluating, saying, is this someone that's going to make our 53-man roster? And so he's going to get the opportunities in these preseason games to prove just that. And what he does with them remains to be seen. The same goes for anybody else's name that we've mentioned before. I think the only locks, like we said, that are going to be on the team are Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Diami Brown, Adam Humphries. Those four right there probably are the only lock. Probably Cam Sims too. I don't know. I haven't other than injury, I have a hard time seeing them going there. So how many receivers we're probably going to carry in the active roster? Probably, 7, maybe one on the practice squad, or 6 and 1 or 2 on the practice squad. So you're really talking about 1 or 2 guys out of all that list there. In my mind, instinctively will go, hopefully that he is probably the most productive out of those guys. Gandy Golden really didn't get a chance last year. I don't know if he was riddled with injuries. But I think Kelvin Harmon is someone that if he does make that ascent, just another, bigger weapon that we can have, because we have a lot of small guys, a lot of small guys I think that are weapons, besides Cam Sims. I think he's one that can complement a size receiver, so a more physical, contested catch type receiver that we can have on our team.
Yeah, no, and kind of what you said, we've already heard his name stand out in minicamp, and that's exactly what he was aiming for. He said he wanted to stand out for his production on the field in minicamp. He's done that. He says he feels more explosive than his rookie year. He feels faster than he did in his rookie year, and he kind of even surprised himself with how much progress he had made the first time he stepped back on the field. And you hear that, it's like, wow, when a guy is putting in the work, he's training, he's working his ass off, he's putting in the time, and then he gets on the field and he's like, whoa, shit, like, hey, look, I feel good. That, again, as somebody that's from the outside looking in, at least for me, is like, well, okay, then maybe this guy is, progress and doing a lot better than even I would have thought if he surprised himself. So, what is that going to look like when it's all said and done? What's it going to look like when he steps on that field and can be more explosive and be faster and be stronger than even he thought he was going to be at this point? So once again, like you said, a guy that is on the bubble, but if he is coming in better than he even thought he might be a guy to be reckoned with, and a guy that's primed for a breakout year. Not saying he's going to go get 1,000 yards, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, but, 500 yards, 30 catches, 35 catches, whatever it may be. What's 500 divided by 30? Is that a ton of yards per catch? It's like 20 yards per catch. It's like,
what, 15? A little bit more than 15 17 yards a catch?
Okay, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that he has. And I hate relying on frames, but I mean it just goes to show you like some of the best receivers. He's got the perfect size. He's one of the best receivers in history. That 6'2", 210, 220 pound range. And with the smaller guys, we have such as Curtis Samuel, Adam Humphries. We really would have liked to move those guys more to the inside. So the better, bigger bodies we had that we could put on the outside, people like McLaurin, people like Kelvin Harmon and Cam Sims, the better and the more, it's more ideal you want for the style of offense we're going to be running. And so, hopefully we can. Definitely we want to have a ton. Again, we have a ton of options, a ton of speed, and we want someone like this to come in to be able to contribute.
Yep, absolutely. And the good news is we don't have to wait too much longer to see what these guys that are making comebacks, Kelvin Harmon, Matt Ioannidis, are going to be able to do. What these new guys are going to be able to do that we brought in either free agency in Adam Humphries or drafted in Diami Brown, Derek Forrest, shout out. We're going to remember your name now. Jamin Davis.
Benjamin St. Just.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Because training camp is right around the corner. So we'll finally be able to see all these guys in action and kind of maybe be able to start forming some ideas of what it's all going to look like when it's all said and done. But, so
and have some things to really pick apart rather than talking about Cleveland Guardians and
I'm just trying to make some content for the show. I'm sorry.
But that's the first thing that came to it's the thing. That's the thing, the sports thing right now. For a while, definitely that name change, and how can it not be about us? We're the first ones to actually go forth and institute a name change based upon an offensive type or racially charged logo or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's definitely in the news out there, and with training camp around the corner and Aaron Rodgers, denying the largest contract in NFL history, and it's a lot of things are going to be revealed here in the next couple of weeks. So it's a great time to be a football fan. It's funny. I saw the meme coming up where it's all now that basketball season is over, and it had like that. It's like the one of Aquaman coming behind Superman, creeping behind. It's all football season is 2 weeks away.
Yep.
But yeah,
we are right there.
We are right there.
Well, that'll do it for us today for the recorded show. If you guys want to stick around and ask us some questions on the live show, please do that.
One more little thing I want to throw in there. I forgot to do it last week, and I want to do it this week. I don't know if you saw it, but they went back and I guess through film and whatnot recounted the sacks in Washington football history. You know, Ryan Kerrigan is our leading sack leader of all time. And they recounted them, and it comes to fruition that now Dexter Manley had more sacks than Ryan Kerrigan. So Dexter Manley.
Oh, really?
So Dexter Manley is, with the, I don't know if they're going to update that or what, but they went back and, obviously watched film and I guess counted sacks. And Dexter Manley is the all-time sack leader based upon that, which makes sense.
Did they give the number?
I don't remember the number, but I'm sure we can look it up probably and have it by the next show. But it was, I remember, like I told you, I don't remember a pass rusher like Dexter Manley other than Lawrence Taylor when I was a kid that was like that. So it's good to see the numbers can reflect that finally.
Yeah, because the sack didn't become a official stat.
It's like 83, 84, I think. I think it was
84.
Like right when I started watching football, and he was wrecking shop, for years, a year or two before that. So I'm assuming it was probably just 2 years worth of sacks is all he was down. But
so 97 sacks total from 91. Or excuse me, from 81 to the end of his career. So that puts him just 1.5 sacks ahead of Kerrigan.
Wow. And how many years?
81
to 91, so 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, so about 9 sacks a year. How long did Kerrigan?
Kerrigan was what?
2011?
2011 to
almost the same amount of time. Yeah, but that's 2 strike years, too. That was 2 strike years for Dexter Manley.
So that's 2011 to 2020. So
yeah,
just about 10 full years. Yeah.
Man, yeah, I'm crazy stats. It's funny. Similar time frames for both of those guys too. But Dexter Manley stopped for others.
So Manley was 81 to 89. So a couple years less.
And more sacks.
Yeah, and more sacks, or I guess a year less.
I don't know. Kerrigan's got to be the leader in missed sacks in NFL history. Because Jesus, I don't know how many times he overrun the quarterback, but I remember him doing it more than sacking the quarterback for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if almost sacks was a stat, Ryan Kerrigan would be the all-time leader in the NFL.
Yeah, there we go. Almost a superhero.
But so anyway, that'll do it for us here on the Allies Behind Enemy Lines podcast. Again, check us out anywhere you find your podcast: Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on SoundCloud, all by searching Allies Behind Enemy Lines. Find us on Facebook, where hopefully you're watching this live show. You can find us on YouTube, where again, hopefully you're watching this live show. If you aren't, go ahead and hit that subscription button and ring that notification bell. Check us out on Twitter at AlliesBEL. One thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show, I see here I got a burgundy shirt. I don't know if you're wearing it. We got our official Allies Behind Enemy Lines t-shirt, our merch, hashtag we all need allies, Allies Behind Enemy Lines, a Washington football team podcast. You can check us out there. Great shirt, fits great, real comfortable, real soft. It's true to size. It's not too big, not too small, anything like that. But it's great work. So you can find that link on our Twitter as well. Joey, do you have something to add there?
That's it. Other than when you want to show them the guns, you got to show them the guns every time it shows off the gun.
Well, I guess so. I mean, if he told me to, I got to do it. It does. Yes. It makes the pipes look real good. I mean, like I'm telling you, look at that. I mean, it just wraps around it perfectly.
When he takes that shirt off, his arms shrink down to like Kermit the Frog songs.
It's true.
The shirt does it. The shirt does it.
That's 100% true. It's not a lie at all. But that'll do it for us here. Next week, hopefully we have some news out of training camp, some good news out of training camp, and a little bit more to talk about. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here next week.